Paul Whelan is a loving husband and father to three. He's well known in the sports television business and is a journalism and mass communications professor at St. Bonaventure University. But to me, Paul Whelan is not only a professor, but rather a mentor, an inspiration, a friend, and someone I aspire to be someday.
If my legacy is Taro Tsuchimoto, as his daddy, why that's fine with me.
To those of you who may not know, Paul is somewhat of a jokester. He's even pulled many hoaxes throughout his lifetime. Some have even gained international recognition, and that's where we begin.
'74, the NHL was having its draft of amateur players, and there was another league at the time called the World Hockey Association, which was also drafting players and competing to sign them. So there was a competition for young players coming out of junior hockey. So the NHL, in its wisdom, decided to have what they call the secret draft. Instead of meeting in a public place, every team could sit in its own offices and have a phone link with the president of the league, and then they'd go through the draft round by round, and that way the WHA, the other league, wouldn't know who was drafted by who, where they were, and they wouldn't have any idea. And so they couldn't make offers based on, better offers than what round the player was drafted in. It was stupid. So we thought it was stupid. Slowed everything down. Because every time a player was drafted, they had to then announce it to the other 15 franchises over a phone line when it got to it. So you would wait, it was your turn to draft, and then the league president would announce everyone who was drafted between the last round you drafted. So he had to do that for every team 16 times. And so it took, by the second day of the draft, it took us 12 hours to get through like 5 rounds. So it was just awful, and it was boring, and so. And my sense of devilishness, the second day I said I was talking to the coach and general manager. Remember, I said before, he has a great sense of humor. His name is Punch Imlach, and he, nicknamed Punch, obviously. And he was like, "What are we gonna do? This is terrible. We have to sit here for this another day." And I said, "Well, I don't know whether I said it first or he did, but I said, why don't we draft someone, like that nobody knows about?" And I said, "Why don't we draft someone who doesn't even exist? That will really be funny." And he's sitting there and he's looking at me, and the director of scouting was there with the 3 of us and the coach. And they said, "Yeah." No, I kept going. I said, "Well, I know. Let's draft a Japanese hockey player. They do play hockey in Japan. It's Class B, world class, but nobody knows anything about it. Let's draft a name there." Well, he says, "Well, who?" And I said, "Well, let's just make one up, So I remember passing a garden store on the way down to Bonaventure when I was a student, and on Route 16, and it was called Tsuchimoto's. So I said, "Why don't we name it Tsuchimoto?" And so then we called up the store, and we found out that we're looking for a good first name. Taro is a common, pretty good male name in Japan. So we drafted Taro Tsuchimoto when it came to our term, and we gave him a height, a weight, shoots left, centerman, played the Tokyo Katanas. Katana is the Japanese word for saber. And we drafted him. Well, what was really funny, we just did it, and we figured, okay, everybody's going to get the joke, and so we drafted him, and the commissioner had to repeat it back. That's what was funny to us. 15 times, the other teams, Taro Tsuchimoto, and then he had to spell it out, Tsujiimot, and people go, "Excuse me, what was that again?" So we thought that was hysterical. We thought just getting him to do that was the joke itself, Well, they took the draft as a legitimate draft. They put him in the book. So once they did that, once we knew they took it as a legitimate choice, we started to make up this character. And we didn't even tell the owners of the team that Taro didn't exist. They thought we drafted a Japanese hockey player. Well, we did, sort of. And by training camp, I got the trainer, who was a friend of mine, to put out, and we were training in St. Catharines, Ontario, and we had a big stall, all the equipment hung out for Taro, his name on it, number, he was in the training camp guide, he was in all our literature, and media. A few guys were pretty suspicious, but some guys were caught completely. A buddy of mine who was the beat writer for the Buffalo News, Dick Johnson, the late Dick Johnson, wrote it in a way in the paper. He said, "I'm not going to be caught entirely, Paul, but he said, I suspect this is a joke." And I said, "Well, you got good suspicion, man." And he wrote, he says, "Reputed to be a player from the Tokyo Katanas," or something like that. He wrote around it a little bit. But most people bought it, and the NHL was getting all these calls about this player and how come he didn't come to camp, and finally the owners we finally broke it to the owners by as a joke too, and Taro. So what happened then is fans in Buffalo used to hang signs off the balcony, front face of the balcony. There was this bunch of fans, we call them the Phantom Sign Makers, and I knew the guys. I didn't know them personally, but they made up these. So they used to put up Taro Says signs, and they would write these funny puns about hockey, and they would hang it. Of course, they get on television, and Taro Says. So now there are, in Buffalo, you can buy Taro Tsuchimoto jerseys, and you can buy Taro T-shirts online. You can. There's still. I don't make a dime out of it, by the way, but there's still. One guy's got a Taro license plate, New York State license plate. If you go to a game there, you'll walk around between periods, and you'll see Taro Tsuchimoto jerseys, Sabres replica jerseys with Tsuchimoto on the back, and usually is number 74 because of the year he was drafted. So Taro lives.
Paul began his career with the Buffalo Sabres in 1970 and ended up working there for 26 years. Through the years, Paul was the PR director, executive producer of TV sports, and also the director of communications. Not only did Paul perform the everyday duties of these positions, but he also delivered a few good laughs.
I always based my pranks on some stretch to reality, something real that you could connect with. Well, that year the city was going to tear up the city of Buffalo ran the arena. They were going to tear up the ice surface, put in new pipes, because artificial ice is made with brine passing through pipes, right? The cools and it makes the ice. So I thought that's what was going to happen, and it was going to happen in the summer. So on April 1st, I put out a release saying that there wasn't going to be new ice; it was going to be plastic ice. We were going to the first team to play on plastic ice. It's called Slider X, and I wrote this release, and then you read the first 3 graphs, and you'd think it's the real deal, right? And then the 4th graph says it was invented by a guy named Ramsey McDonald in a cow barn in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. And that's the 4th graph. Now, if that isn't a giveaway, I don't know what is. And Ramsey McDonald is the name of a former Prime Minister of England, by the way, Great Britain. So I put out the release, and it got so many people. It got people in the, on the television. Oh my God, it was incredible. Well, I thought that was hysterical. I mean, I didn't, and the thing is, I didn't continue the lie. I mean, I put flags all over it, and by about the 4th graph. If you kept reading, you should have been able, if you're any brains, you should have been able to figure out this was just a good fun thing. So I got the president of the league or the commissioner who was embarrassed by it. I got a sports anchor in Buffalo who broke the release date on it and used it as his exclusive story, which was really hysterical so I called him up and I said, "Hey Ed," I said, "you broke the embargo date on this. I'm really mad at you. I mean, you used it before release date." And he said, "Well, yeah, I got it from another source." And now I'm really laughing because there was no other source. It all came out of my mind, So this idiot used it on the air, and he forever paid for it by getting the nickname Captain Stupid among the media in Buffalo. Anyway, I didn't do it to get him. I mean, if you're stupid enough to go for this, you deserve it, So that started a tradition. Every year then I would do an April Fool's release right up till 1980. And I did one that we were building an amusement park called The Wonderful World of Hockey right outside the arena in Buffalo. And I had all these different rides in it and all kinds of goofy stuff. We sent out an illustration of the park and the layout and everything. And I got a few people with that.
Although some people grew skeptic of some of Paul's hoaxes, this next one sent them sailing.
And the next year I put out a story that with a picture of the USS Little Rock, which is a retired U.S. Navy cruiser, which was in the naval park right next to the old Memorial Auditorium, right outside where we played. So I took a picture of it, and I had a couple hundred copies made black and white that said the USS Little Rock Buffalo Sabres official team yacht. And I put out a story release that said we were going to train on it during the summer, and the players and their families are going to go out on Lake Erie and sail around and do physical training and also vacation together. And the general manager and coach at the time went completely along with the gags, and he would do interviews about them on the phone, dead serious. And so that was really funny because we got the New York Times with that, and we got a station in Houston that fell for it completely, station in Philadelphia, television station. So it was. I know that folk because I'm the guy that took their calls and laughed my ass off. Oops, shouldn't have said that, should I? Yeah. So I decided that on April 1st we would put out a release saying that we were America's hockey team. And I had a presidential proclamation done, or a letter from President Reagan, because we got a hold of White House stationery, and I had a commercial artist take off the old letter that was just from the White House to somebody who wrote the White House, signed by Reagan with the machine signing, right? So then there's this letter that's declaring us America's hockey team, and I also had fake Time magazine covers made up, showing one of our players, and it said on a little yellow here in the corner of Time magazine, America's hockey team, Buffalo Sabres. See page so-and-so. A colored picture of our star player on the cover. And I had the release, and then I also had $250,000. This is the funny part. I spent a lot of our money for $250,000 little window decals, $250,000, that we could give out in Rochester and in Buffalo, because the Amherst were our farm club. So it was on a red, white, and blue background, and had the Sabres emblem in the middle. So the owners asked me why I had them done that way, the decals. We used to use a lot of them. I said, well, we have the Americans as our farm club now, so I spent, I think it cost me about 2 cents a piece. Figure out how much money I spent on the company's money. But we distributed them all. So a lot of people, didn't buy it completely, but, but people sort of bought it a little bit. What the worst part and funniest part was, afterward I got a phone call from the AP in Washington. And the guy said, you were mentioned, not by name, but at the White House press briefing this morning by the press secretary. And I said, what? He says, yeah, it's threatening you broke 2 federal laws with that joke. I said, what? And he said, first of all, you use White House stationery, that's against federal law. Second of all, you signed the president's name on something, that's against federal law. So he's talking about possibly, having charges placed against you. So I said, bring it on, that's going to give us more publicity. I said that, I meant it. I never got indicted, which is probably good for my wife, anyway, my family. But I thought it would be funny if they made a federal case out of it. I actually did.
By 1980, Paul was the executive producer for the Buffalo Sabres. He began producing TV hoaxes that all tied into hockey in one way or another.
First one we did, we pretended we were doing the World Service of Buffalo Sabres. BSTV it was called. Think about that. BSTV, and we hired an English announcer who wore a coat, white tie and tails. He's a real Englishman, an actor with a beard, everything's pretty. And we did it as if we were doing the game on the World Service of BSTV out of London. And we were distributing it internationally, and we had all these crazy gags. And I kept doing them year after year until 1994. We had hoaxes over the years. Every year we had some kind of a hoax.
In 1985, Paul produced an April Fool's telecast that was supposed to provide hockey 24/7. It was called HockeyNet.
We did all kinds of commercial spots for the HockeyNet. You could subscribe through your cable system, and then we did I did a spot as Ralph Sincere. That's this unctuous announcer. Hello, I'm Ralph Sincere. Sincerely, Ralph Sincere. Just terrible, unctuous announcers. So. I did a spot and I said, if you see a little red flashing asterisk in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, your cable will be charged $2 more this month for watching this program. And of course the asterisk was up there on every screen, right? So they got calls about that, the cable companies. Well, they're paying $2 more for that idiot, And I just did Ralph Sincere promoting things, and I just was terrible. I mean, I did it as syrupy as you could. Sincerely. Ralph Sincere.
Hi, I'm Ralph Sincere. Hello, hi, I'm Ralph Sincere, as I said before, and sincerely want to welcome you to the world premiere of the World Service of BSTV. Later this month, we'll have other attractions, including the Preppy Frisbee Championship from the campus of Western Reserve Academy in Hudson, Ohio, and on the 10th, we'll have Harvard and Bryn Mawr in horizontal rugby. And we want you to know that tonight's game is being brought to you through the special cooperation of your cable system. If in the next few minutes you see an asterisk flashing in the upper left-hand corner of your home screen, you will be billed $3 in next month's cable billing. That's the way it is here at BSTV. We're certainly happy to have you aboard. On behalf of myself, Ralph Sincere, have a good evening.
And I don't know why I did it that way. I just did it. It was just because I get tired. There's so many announcers that get on, and they're unctuous. They're a pain in the ass.
Paul ended his Sabres career in 1996. His good friend Lee Coppola offered him a job at his alma mater, St. Bonaventure University, and he has been working there since 2001. At St. Bonaventure, Paul continues to pull hoaxes.
One year I had fake parking tickets made up here, and they look just like the regular parking tickets that everybody gets when they park illegally. Except mine said St. Bonaventure University and had a lot of silly things on them. And on the morning of April 1st, my students in broadcast seminar, plus some others, went out at 8 o'clock in the morning and ticketed every faculty and staff car, no student cars, with the fake tickets, including the president, Sister Margaret's car. And I told them if they get stopped by anybody, just say it's an April Fool's joke and Paul Whelan, Professor Whelan's doing it. I didn't want anybody to get in trouble. It was just a gag, you know. Well, you should have seen some of these people coming out of Plasman, and they see a ticket on their car, the professors and all that, swearing, getting mad. I parked, well, how can I get a ticket? You know, that kind of stuff. No, I have students out there with spies, and they're laughing like hell. And then one of the guys from maintenance comes, and he finds out from one of my students that I did it. And there's hundreds of tickets on cars, you know, and at least a couple hundred anyway. And so he comes to my office, and he called me, so I go outside. I meet him out back. It's a sunny day. And he starts giving me all kinds of crap. We're going to have to pick up all these tickets and all that. You're trashing the place. Not a single ticket was found on the ground. Everybody kept them as a souvenir, right? In fact, I had faculty members asking me for one because I didn't get ticketed that day. Could I have one as a souvenir? So they're going out in the internal mail and all. I still have some in my office. So I got Sister Margaret. She thought she told somebody. Secondhand. I hear she told somebody she thought pretty funny. You know, harmless, you know. So then a few years later, we've done some April Fool's telecasts, as you know, on the newscasts over the years. Did one last year, did one a few years ago. I think we've done them several times actually. And but then when the Olympics were in London, the Summer Olympics, I sent out a release. So we did it out of the journalism school with Dean Hoffman's cooperation. We did a video story too on the fact that the television truck we have was going to go to work the Olympics because it had done major events in the States before, and it was going to go flow over in a barge and over to London. And the reason that we're using it is because it's standard def, and all the poorer countries in the world can't take high def, so they have to have standard def in the Olympics, and our truck was going to be used. Well, believe it or not, that caught faculty here.
Family has always meant a lot to Paul, and his family continues to be a big part of his life today.
I don't know why I'm the way I am. My mother thought I was wacky. My father would laugh at them all. Of course, my mother's wacky herself, but my wife has put up with me so long now that her friends call her St. Betsy, so I guess you can tell she's been stuck the course out all the way. She's the opposite of me as far as she doesn't make jokes. I mean, she had a good sense of humor, but she is not a jokester. She just sometimes went, oh, God, what did you do this time? And my children, it depends on the child. My middle daughter, who teaches here at St. Bonaventure, probably gets the most out of my gags, and my youngest daughter, Caitlin, she does too. My oldest daughter doesn't. She's not that kind of a sense of humor at all. So it's funny, you have kids, and everybody's different. You think, gee, they're all going to be like, you know, each other, but they're not, and it's weird. That's what makes the world interesting, I guess. The rest of my family, I mentioned before, my sister, she's as flaky as I am, so she gets a kick out of, you know, gag things like that. And I don't know. It never affected my family life negatively. I don't think it, only in a positive way.
It will always be in Paul's nature to enjoy life and make people laugh.
I just like to continue life at this point. But if so be it, if I'm working here and I'm still teaching, and I still certainly intend to have a little bit of fun with April 1st. That's my Christmas morning, is April 1st. You know, it really has been. That's my favorite day of the year. Even when I don't do anything big, I still enjoy it really a lot. I enjoy making people laugh, and I enjoy the laughter when one of my hoaxes works. And I enjoy the people around me that remember my hoaxes and get a kick out of them even years later and talk to me about them, because that's kind of fun for me. I think it's, you know, it's sort of, I'll probably go to my grave as the guy who invented Taro Tujimoto. That'll be in the lead in my obit, whatever kind of obit I get in the paper. And that's okay, because it could be worse. It was one of the fun things I ever did, and Yeah, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is.
I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. I'll play my music in the sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker.